Have you ever wondered what animals are thinking and feeling? Have you ever asked yourself if it really matters at all? For years, I have been exploring the natural world, always with my camera in my hand. But it was not until I crossed paths with today's guest in Patagonia that I was able to fully align my permanent search for facts and documenting the world with my heart. If you're passionate about the wildlife, if you're a curious mind in permanent search on how to positively impact our planet, you should not miss today's episode. I promise by the end of the video, you will think about the natural world in a completely different manner. What is to lose? Keep watching. Hello dreamers, my name is Quique Calvo, photographer and entrepreneur. It is not every day that we have the pleasure to have a true animal lover at core. A lyrical non-fiction writer and scientist that explores how humans are changing the living world. And not only for us, humans, but also for non-human beings too. Carl Safina has won a MacArthur Genius Prize, a Guggenheim Fellowship, a National Science Foundation Fellowship, but for me, it was during our conversations in Patagonia on a journey with National Geographic and Lindblad Expeditions that helped me see the person behind the awards, and that's whom I respect the most. Early in the pandemic, I found myself in an unusual and uncomfortable place in time and space. As Carl addressed me in several emails back then, it was his words that rewired my internal programming, allowing me to be able to raise up to the circumstances, redirecting my frustrations into love and creativity. And that's why I'm thrilled to have Carl Safina with us today.
Thank you, Kike. It's a great pleasure to be with you.
It is my pleasure to have you on my YouTube channel, Carl. As you know, this is my humble attempt to create quality content in today's busy and competitive online world. Knowing how busy you are, sometimes waking up in the early hours of the night to observe and document the life of young owls, it is a great honor for us to have you here. Let's get started. If there is one thing that life has taught me to do, that is to learn from others. I see many spending precious moments criticizing others. My approach is to carefully look at what makes people unique. Let's start with an interview with some reverse engineering. It is my understanding that your new book, Becoming Wild, was selected by the editors of the New York Times Book Review as one of the 100 most notable books of 2020. That is quite an accomplishment for a writer, or should I say, a scientist. I would like to pick your mind when it comes to the creative process of writing a book. Could you explain my audience, using a simple language, the steps you follow in writing one of your books, please?
Steps I take in writing a book are usually to go someplace out in nature, usually with scientists or other people, sometimes on my own, and to document what I see. I usually use recording devices to quickly take voice notes, or I write things down. Usually I do a lot of both. Then I come back to the office, and over usually weeks and months, I sift through what I've got. I write out a lot of the audio notes. Some of them I don't write out if I think they're not going to be used. And then I start compiling it in the form of a narrative, a story, something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Then I look at everything else that I think is needed to inform the story, things that have to do with what scientists have published, or other people have written about a particular topic or particular animals or place. And to the extent that those things would help the story and help the reader and enrich the story, I put those in. So I sort of layer it. It's a little bit like painting. paint the first simple layer, and then more details into that. And usually it takes, I don't know, usually it takes a year or two to finish a book once I've gotten started. And that usually includes the field work. But sometimes it's been a lot longer and sometimes it's been shorter.
What are the habits that you feel have made a big difference in your career as a writer and as a scientist?
The main thing is work. It doesn't get done if you're not doing it. So I like the process of trying to be creative. I like to work a lot. I usually work for, I guess around 2 hours at a time, and then I get up and I take a little break, a little stretch. Maybe I'll make some tea, I'll go outside. I may take a very brief walk or have a little snack. I mean, it depends what time of the day it is. I may check on our chickens or feed them. The chickens are usually roaming around the yard all day. There are a few times a day when my break time is usually to go out and make sure they're okay and give them some more food. If it's cold in the wintertime, sometimes I'll go out and I'll split some wood for the wood burning stove and spend 20 minutes or a half hour or something like that doing that. So it varies, but mostly I work a lot. I try to work from fairly early in the morning until dinner time, and then often after dinner for a little while, sometimes till about 10 p.m., and then I go to bed. And sometimes the most important thing you need to do to get your work accomplished is to take a break. Take a day to be out somewhere getting some good exercise out in nature. Usually a few times a week, sometimes for a while every day, not always every day. I spend an hour taking the dogs. We have 3 dogs. I take them to the beach somewhere. So in a way, all of that is my life process, and it's my work process as well. Try to stay, in a good frame of mind, open-minded. You don't want to sit at your desk morning, noon, and night without getting up. You don't want to have no other things to do. I have other things to do as well. And all of that is both my work process and my life, I would say. Mostly it's to stick with it. There's a lot of disappointment in work. A lot of times you think that you can't do what you're trying to do. Maybe you think you're not good enough. I've had all those feelings a lot. But sticking with it is one way of figuring out if you can really accomplish it. Usually you can if you stay with it. Try new things. Don't get discouraged. There's a lot of rejection in writing. You can't get discouraged. It is discouraging, though. But after you feel discouraged, you have to get back up and do it. So sticking with it, I think, is the most important thing.
I understand there's lots of in-depth research in all your books. How do you make sure your ideas don't evaporate in the long process of creating a book? Can you share with us your note-taking habits or any other techniques that you feel assure the successful completion of your manuscripts?
A lot of times I have ideas that I think are pretty good ideas, and I want to make sure that I don't forget them, so I write them down. Often if I'm working on a book, I have a file open that's ideas, and I just keep a running list of ideas, or I might have a sticky note. I usually have on my desk a pad so I can write something by hand. I have a notepad next to my bed, so I have ways to capture ideas. But one thing I don't do is rely on memory, because I usually forget, and I think, what was that great idea that I had? I hate that feeling.
How do you come with ideas for your books? Do you follow a brainstorming process? Could you elaborate on this, please?
I have a file with ideas for books, and they occur to me as I'm reading things. Sometimes they occur to me as I'm finishing a book, an idea for how to carry on the conversation, or an idea that I couldn't get to in the course of a book may be worth a book of its own. Sometimes it's just something that happens out in the world that has caused me to write a book. Usually it comes from things I'm thinking about, and usually I think about things that I'm reading about or experiencing. So I don't think there's any substitute for reading and experiencing. Usually when I've decided about a book I want to write, I write a book proposal, and the book proposal describes the book and gives some idea of what the book will encompass, some list of some of the chapters it might have. But I can't write a detailed outline because I don't really know what material I'm going to get or what thoughts will occur to me as I'm working on it and researching it. And the outline goes to publishers, and hopefully we get somebody who wants to publish this book. And if they do, then I write it.
What are the elements that any good story should have?
Every good story needs a beginning, a middle, and an end. A story is a narrative that has time, and over time something changes. And a good story has a beginning, a middle, an end, interesting things, some good characters or great animals, and sometimes something insightful or dramatic, or something that makes you think. That's what a good story is, I believe.
Audubon Society named you amongst its 100 notable conservationists of the 20th century. I had the pleasure to listen to your presentation, and it's mesmerizing to hear your ability to connect with your audience. As you say, facts alone cannot save us, but heart will, heart must. Could you expand on the formula you use when crafting your presentation? What should anybody interested in connecting with the audience always remember?
When I'm working on presentations, I also try to think of it a bit as a story. What is the beginning, the middle, and the end of what I'm trying to tell somebody? Where do we need to connect at the beginning? Try to reach people where they are, where they think the audience is, and take them on a bit of a journey with me, journey of discovery of not just information, but mainly, maybe I could say informed emotion. Knowing some things and understanding how one can feel about those things. I think that has a lot to do with it. I try to lighten up on, I wouldn't say avoid, but really lighten up on graphs and numbers and informational details, and stick with images and just talk through my images, because I want the attention of the audience to be on the beauty of what I'm talking about. Create the images that they can hold in their mind, I think, better than a graph, unless it's a very dramatic graph or a row of numbers. And I guess that's just what I have in mind when I'm approaching the idea of needing to do a new presentation on a topic.
What are the 2 books that you wish you had written and why?
The books I wish I have written are the books that I have on my list that I have not written yet. When I was a student, there was a book called Life on Earth by David Attenborough. And I told a couple of friends, I wish I had written this book. It was a really fantastic book. But nowadays, I just try to write books that I have on my list of books I'd like to write.
Carl, it's been a real pleasure to have you on this channel. As I mentioned earlier, the fact that destiny placed both of us in the same ship at the same time probably altered the course of my career. And for that, along with your kind and concise words, when I need them the most, I will always be grateful. As they say in Spain, ser agradecidos es de bien nacidos. And I also know that kids around the world will always be thankful for being one of the first supporters of the Adventures of Pili project. You were able to anticipate what love and passion could do with a little jumpstart. Oh, Carl, and I don't want to forget, we have a tradition in this channel. All our guests, in their own particular way, wish our audience to never stop dreaming. Could you become part of this tradition in your own personal way?
Well, Kike, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure. It's great that you're doing this channel. And to you and to me and to everybody, keep dreaming. But once you wake up from that dream, figure out how to make it work. Make some plans to put that dream into action in real life.